Good morning. Today I would like to show you how to make a bow drill and how to make a fire with it. So, obviously, first I'm gonna have to show you what we're gonna need and how to make them. So, obviously, the first things first, the bow. What you're gonna need is some string and obviously a stick for the bow. And with the stick, it takes quite a bit of practice to get it right. Because, of course, you don't want a super small stick. Or a too big of a stick. So what you're going to want to need is a stick around this size. Make sure that it's bendable, not too easy to break. And the string, not too long. A little longer than your stick, or at least to both ends of the stick. So, see, there's some on both sides so that you're able to tie it. Of course, obviously, you don't want a string about this long, unless you're going to have a really small bow. And, of course, the longer the bow, the easier. So the next thing you're going to need is a spindle. What I have here is some red cedar, and of course, you always want to make your spindle same wood as your board. We'll get to that later. As you can see, I've used it a little already, and you should have it quite long. Don't want it too short, or too long, don't want it like that. So, should be about a foot and a half in length, and make sure, like I said before, it's the same wood as your board, so that way it's easier to start fires. And of course, there's pretty much the most important part of your bow drill is the board. So, you take a board, pretty flat, at most an inch, not too flat though either, or else you won't be able to get your notch and stuff like that in there. So, you're going to need to make a notch, not too big, and make sure that you make an indent where your spindle can go, and make sure that your notch goes not all the way, but pretty close to the middle of where it's going to be. So, with the block that holds your spindle, of course, what I have been told works best is an oyster shell, which I was quite surprised, but smooth surface won't burn through, so that works. But if you don't have an oyster shell available, a block of wood always works nice. The only problem with wood is that when you try using the spindle and everything, it will burn through eventually. So either make it really thick or have multiple ones available, same with the board. So with the oyster shell, you can see how there are grooves and indents, and so you're going to want to put it in one of those grooves. And as you can see, not very much friction at all, so making it much easier for the spindle. Alright, so then you want to get your tinder. So what you want to do is take some dry grass, dead dry grass, or reeds, something like that, depending on where you live. Anything that's dry, light, thin, like grass or stuff like that, will work. So what you want to do is kind of put it together, not too hard, don't really squish it, kind of cup your hand around it, and you take the rest of it, squish it in, not too hard, and then you make a nest. So that way, when your coal lands in there, when your coal lands in the grass, it will light it. And another thing you want to do, what you will most likely want to do, is put either very small twigs, or what I would recommend is some shavings from your spindle. Now see, from the spindle, why I say red cedar is because red cedar is a very light, very easy lighting wood, and like this too, also red cedar, is very light. It's not dense or anything like that. It's a great fire starter and everything like that. So what you might want to do is take shavings from that and put them in there, and make sure some of the grass is, loose. You don't want to squish it too hard or else it won't light. And make sure it's really dry. And so that will work, and it'll light, and then you can put some more on there, and then small sticks and smaller, a little bit bigger sticks and bigger until you have a fire. So that's another good way to do it. And depending on where you live, of course, you might not have grass or red cedar. Try to find the non-dense as possible. Try to find wood that's not very dense at all, or just find the lightest wood you can. So, making the bow. What I usually do is I take one end and I tie this around, and what I do is make kind of a lasso, so that way it will tighten itself whenever it's pulled. It won't come loose. Make sure it's tight so it doesn't come off. Then you can just pull it. It'll tighten itself around the stick. Then what you do is you bring the other end over here. You take the other end. What you want to do is you want to kind of bend it so that way it's tight. You wrap it around, and you make 2 half hitches. You make 2 half hitches, very sturdy knot, and very easy to take apart. See? And with access string, you can either cut it, which I do not recommend, or just wrap it around, then tie it, because it won't be in the way once you do this. Now I'm going to show you the form. So what you want to do is put down your board, make sure that your tinder is underneath the notch so that an ember can fall through and go into your tinder nest. And with the bow, what you're going to want to do is you're going to bend it a little bit, put it in kind of sideways, and twist it around. So then you put it in there, and you hold that down with your foot, and make sure you hold the spindle or else it'll fly off. You take your block or oyster, in this case, put it on there, hold it tight, don't push down too hard, but don't make sure that you're able to keep it down, and then you just move it back and forth. Once you get comfortable, you can go a little faster and harder. And it's going to take quite a long time, not a long time if you do it right, but it's going to take a while. And there you go. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy trying to make your own bow and bow drill. Have a good day.